What do you mean continue? Just like we just did? Welcome, everybody. We are live on the Daytripper Photo Show, and we hope everybody's watching tonight because we've got some fun things as far as photos to review and as far as information to talk about, and we've got a really cool special guest on the show tonight that we're going to introduce you to right now. His name is Michael Lane. Good day to you, sir.
Good day, good day.
Welcome to the show.
It's interesting to be here.
It's interesting to be here. That's okay.
Encouragement.
Total stage fright. So.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
All right. Well, no need to have stage fright. It's going to be a fun show. Yeah, no one. Except for the 40 viewers that are watching right now. No, I'm just joking.
So it's perfect.
It's perfect. They don't need to know that we're sitting here in our underwear. It's all good.
Yeah, just don't stand up.
How'd you know?
So anyway, Michael is an amazing photographer. You have to see his work to appreciate his talents. One of the things we talked about in our little pre-chat here is that you love making composite photos. And that's something that we haven't really had on the show too much. Like, obviously, we've had Don Komarechka, and for those of you playing the drinking game on the show, go right ahead. We'll talk about Don in a few seconds as well. But, you know, it's that compositing talent that Phil, you said it best. You know, it's you don't do a lot of it, and why would that be?
Because I think I called myself more traditional.
Yes, that's exactly what you said. You're traditional. But ultimately, and I think the point that I'm trying to get at here is that we don't all have the patience and intention and follow through to create really interesting works of composite, and that's something that you kind of strive for, isn't it?
Yeah.
What attracts you to that whole process?
I'm a big fan of surrealism. I love the idea of creating photos. I like just the puzzle piece aspect to it and the fact that I can take the same pieces to the puzzle of whatever I'm doing and create completely different images with them. And we mentioned before there's a photographer that I really admire, Eric Johansson, whose whole career is surrealism and composites and just building impossible images, and it's the impossible aspect to it that I'm really in love with.
Yeah, we've talked about him quite a bit, actually. I think we're all enthralled in his process. You know, taking months and months and months to work on a single image, taking bits and pieces of photos from different things to combine and make into interesting art. And we're not going to get too into it right now, but the photo that you actually shared for this week's photo, or this current photo challenge, which you know, you have graciously decided to pull yourself out of the competition so others could, you know, contribute a little bit differently since you're reviewing the photos as well. But that's a composite, and we're going to talk about how you made that shot and get into that in a little bit more detail later on in the show when we give our tip of the week. But I'm really excited to have you on the show, man. Thank you so much for being here this week.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. And as always, we've got our buddy Phil. Hello, Phil.
Hi.
Any big news this week from you?
Nope. Nothing yet.
All right. Well, when you get some, let us know.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
There's some big news from you yesterday, though.
Oh, look at you.
Hey.
I've muted your microphone and closed off your video now so nobody can see.
Okay.
Yeah, so thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
I turned old yesterday.
That's okay. It happens.
Yeah, and as Fred Eade reminded me, Fred is a member of our community who's a little older than myself. He says, don't call yourself old until you are old. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? You've probably got a point there. But it's, you know, age is how you feel, right? Mm-hmm. And if it's how you feel, then, you know, even though Fred in numbers might be older than me, I guarantee you he feels a lot younger than me. So just go in there. Why not? All right. So, yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was my birthday yesterday. I turned 45.
Hey, not bad. And it was someone else's birthday today, too. I think they turned 15, 16?
Don, yes.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So today is Don Komarechka's birthday. We just want to send a big shout out to Don. Happy birthday to you, sir. Michael, have you seen Don Komarechka's work?
I have not yet. I don't believe so.
All right. Well, while you can, if you can, pull up a Google search of Don Komarechka and amaze yourself with the work he does. He wrote the book on snowflake photography and macro, literally.
Right now.
Yeah. So we're not going to spend too much time talking about Don, but happy birthday to you, Don. And also, a big, big deal for Don. He just had a baby, he and his wife. So not only is this his birthday, but it's his first birthday as a dad, which is even cooler. So
Oh, yeah.
congratulations, and look forward to lots of pictures of. The first thing I thought, and this is pretty bad, the first thing I thought was we're going to see all kinds of macro photos of the baby's toenails and stuff.
Oh, no.
You know, because he's like super macro guy. But he promised he wouldn't be doing stuff like that, so we'll see how it goes. But congratulations, Don. Okay, so
And sorry for anyone playing the game at home.
yeah, I know you're feeling it already. I think Mark Flinders plays the game, so we got to watch out for him tonight if he's watching. Okay, big news from Canon. For those of you who have purchased the Canon 1DX Mark II, you might want to listen up for a quick second. Apparently, Canon is warning against using SanDisk CFast cards in their cameras. Now, it's interesting because every single one of the Canon 1DX Mark IIs that I've sold came with a SanDisk CFast card. It was part of the package. It was an incentive to buy the camera early. So, gall darn it, I got to talk to all my customers and give them a call and say, hey, guys, I don't know what we're going to do about this yet, so I'm going to wait until I know. But apparently, if this is something that Canon is authorizing, I work at Henry's full-time, we're going to have to step up and say, guys, we'll take these cards back and we'll issue you new cards that aren't on the list if the current cards that were given are on the list. And I've looked at the list. I just don't remember exactly which card was given because, you know, it's like one little number off and it's not the same thing, right? So
Interesting.
yeah, I'm going to look into that a little bit more. But for those of you who bought the Canon 1DX Mark II and got the free CFast card, you might want to look into the link that we have right here. Let's see if I can share this with... Where would I share this for people to see it?
I really don't know. Maybe we could make a post about it afterwards.
Yeah, we'll add it to the video, but definitely we'll put it in the comments.
Link down.
Yeah, but anyway, if you go to dpreview.com, you'll find the link very easily. It's one of the things that they have talking about right now. And I just got to quickly say hello to Jerry Kelly, who's watching right now. Hey, Jerry, thank you for using the Q&A. Just want to remind everybody who's using or watching our show, feel free to talk to us. The Q&A is all built into this Hangout. If you want to see what it is, just hover your mouse over the window that you're watching. Along the left side, there'll be a little indicator that says Q&A. Click on that, and on the right side, you'll be able to chat to us, tell us what you think, say hi, babble on about drunken stupors because we say Don Komarechka's name too much. You never know. Just anything you want to do. Oh, I just want to remind everybody, I want to thank Blake Zimmerman. Blake introduced me to Michael, and Blake has been on the show many times. He's a good friend of mine, good friend of the shows and the community, amazing photographer, and I just want to thank Blake for introducing us to Michael. Very cool. And you know Blake through Ron Clifford's studio opening because you're friends with Ron's son, Josh.
Yeah, went to school with him.
So there's like a 6 degree of Kevin Bacon kind of thing. How everybody knows everybody. All right, so what's that?
There's Blake now.
Oh, look at that.
Tom Ankle's drink.
Oh, Blake is sitting there with his glass, I guarantee you. That's all right. Actually, I was at the liquor store today for the first time in probably a decade, and I picked up some stuff. And I don't really drink much. I haven't been drunk since my stag party about 20 years ago. It's just kind of a me thing. But yeah, very cool stuff.
Learned your lesson, huh?
Yeah, it was a total lesson. Tell me about it. Couldn't drive until 8 p.m. the next day. Mark is watching tonight. Excellent. Very cool. So he'll be drunk in about 10 minutes. And thank you, Blake, for watching. And he says, you're welcome, Brian, for introducing us to Michael. That's very cool. All right, so for those of you who are watching right now, please, if you haven't already, jump over to Google+ and join the community, the Daytripper photo community on Google+. Lots of cool things happen there. Anytime you have questions, you can ask them, and that's where we do the hub of our photo review. So ultimately today, as you all know, this is the photo review show for the photo challenge, water, and there's been some pretty interesting photos submitted, and I can't wait to get to those, which we're going to do shortly. But this is how we find out about all of our photo challenges and the point leaders and all of the good things that go on through Daytripper Photo and the community itself. Google+, it's an awesome resource for photographers, and we use it because our community is private, so we can't reshare your photos to the world. And we also use it because EXIF information is intact. So when you share a photo or you post a photo and it's done properly, we'll see what the shutter speed and the aperture and the ISO is. We can use that when we're reviewing the shot to help us understand how it was made. That way we can give some insight as to what potential options there would be as far as how you shoot that or do it or edit it or whatever. So great venue for that. And I also want to remind people, if you are watching on YouTube after the fact, please click like, not dislike. It's happened. I don't know why. Why would people do that? Doesn't make sense to me. It's a great show. We love
It's one
it.
in every crowd.
Yeah, I guess so. And it's always only one. So I think it's the same person that watches the show every week and always hits dislike. So if that's the case, it doesn't really matter. Keep on watching. That's fine too. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Okay. Also, don't forget, use the Q&A. That's in the notes. I've already said it, so I'm moving past it. Newest sponsor, Sennheiser, is in the house, is represented right here on my head. I love these headphones. Super quiet noise canceling system, so I don't have to hear all the ambient noise that might be going on around us. Great sound, great comfort. Thank you, Sennheiser, for hooking us up. And they're giving us some swag in the form of, whoa, throwing things around. Let's put that back up here. That's next. Lanyards and some pens, and I've got a couple of small T-shirts. I'm hoping to get some other T-shirts that fit human-sized people. Until then, though, little people can win the small shirts that we have from Sennheiser. But that's pretty cool. And also, want to always thank our good friends over at Lens Pen. These guys are fantastic. I mean, they gave us a whole slew of different accessories we can give away. So, seeing as today is week 3 of the quarter 3 of the 4-quarter challenge, there's only one more challenge afterward. And keep on submitting, because as soon as we're done the 4 quarters, we're going to give away a bunch of these prizes, like the Lens Pen Micro Clear Cloth. Awesome stuff. Did I ever tell you the story when I exploded water in Gabriel's car?
No.
Yeah, so we're driving along, and we leave I think we were shooting the Vaughan Film Festival event or something, and we were super thirsty, so I grabbed like a 1-liter bottle of water from the stock and go to the car. He's like, yeah, just don't spill the water all over here. I'm like, yeah, no problem, no problem. So I'm sitting there, and I open it between my legs, and as soon as I open it, my legs squeezed because he hit a bump, and the water just went and hit the dash and went all over the place. Lens Pen saved the day because this one little cloth was actually absorbent enough to clean the entire dash. Of course, seeing it was Gabriel's car, I had to wash this thing afterward because it was filthy. But yeah, you can wash them in the machine, and they work great. So that's something that we're going to give away. And of course, we've got the regular Lens Pen that we're going to give away to a bunch of people. Excellent prizes. Michael, do you use Lens Pen? Have you ever used these things?
I do. I've actually got the Lens Pen kit for the normal pen, the filter cleaner, and the smaller one for the viewfinders, and I'm completely in love with it.
And that came with the cloth too.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, good products. Everybody uses these. So guys, Lens Pen, thank you so much for that. We've also got some cool gifts from our buddies over at Cotton Carrier, and I'm so excited that we're back with Cotton. Andrew Cotton was the original inventor. That's where the name came from, Cotton Carrier. Get it? And I've been using one for about 4 years now. This is my original Cotton Carrier holster. I just clip this on my belt. My camera just locks into it just like that and hangs there, and it locks in. When I say it locks, it locks. You have to tilt it to get it back off again. So I could walk around the CNE, or Shelly and I went to the food truck thing last Saturday, had a great time, and I'm able to walk around with, at the time I was using a D500 with a 50-100 f1.8 Sigma. A lot of weight, you know, and on my belt, didn't even feel it, walked around just fine. So the Cotton Carrier Wanderer system is what we're going to give away, which is the holster with a little tether strap support. And also giving away the hand strap, which I'm super excited about. So lots of cool things. Keep on submitting photos for our photo challenges, and you could really possibly win some cool stuff. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and thank you for being on the show. We're going to get to the meat and potatoes, and Gabriel's watching right now. He says, so, no more picking up Brian in my filthy car.
I would think he would be happy. You kind of cleaned it.
I did. I'm there for you, Gabe. Come on. And thanks for watching, buddy. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna need rides from him eventually. So I think I'll bring extra lens cloths next time, just in case, you know. Okay, so we've got a lot of people who have commented here. Mark Flinders, he says, I watched 7 hours of DTP TV last Sunday while editing photos. It was awesome to catch up on the episodes I missed. I actually was talking to him about this before. I still feel kind of bad for him watching 7 hours of the Daytripper photo show in succession. But, you know, you got a lot of editing done, so obviously you were able to and do some stuff. So I hope it didn't ruin your editing if you stuck with it. That's pretty good. Thanks, Mark. Pretty cool. And Christine says, good evening, gentlemen. Hello to you, Christine. Blake says, well, you're down one filthy host. Much cleaner upgrades. Wow. Blake's not getting a ride from Gabriel either. Gee. And Glenn Wilcox says, like. Very cool. All right, let's get to some stuff. What do you think? Let's review some photos.
Sounds good.
That's what the show's all about. So, Gabriel. I called you Gabriel, Phil.
It's close.
I miss him. Miss him already.
I'd love to get him back on at some point.
I hope he'll come back on at some point. I absolutely hope so.
As soon as he, like sleeps or something.
Yeah, I think that was it. He needs some sleep. Okay, so you're gonna do some screen sharing here?
Yes. Let me know if my internet is dodgy. It's been a little iffy lately, so if I freeze, let me know. Somehow, I'm not quite sure how you're gonna do that, but
I was doing a hangout with Gabriel and Navi and the partners from the Loft yesterday, and my computer kept freezing so bad. I was actually scared that the show may not happen because I didn't know if it was my side of things or what, but so far so good. Knock wood. We should be fine. Okay, go for it, Phil.
absolutely.
Now, Michael's going to help us review these photos, and it's great getting a new person's insight. And when we get to your photo, Michael, we're going to have a conversation about that, and that could be really interesting for a lot of people. So keep on watching, guys, because it's going to be fun. And by the way, again, the photo challenge theme this week was water. We do have a photo challenge picked for next week, which I'm very excited about. And let's get to it, Phil. Why don't we start with the first one?
Clicking on this one here.
Cool.
There we go.
So this is Eric De Silva's. First of all, Eric, thank you for submitting. That's awesome. This is Rain on Leaves. Now, I make notes for every show. I like to go through early and make notes of how I feel about the images. And, the whole concept of a photo review is to be encouraging and to give ideas on, based on our experience and things that we possibly think could help the photographer make an image that's more impactful or more appealing to a broader audience maybe, or even just something more interesting. When we were reviewing this photo, I had a bunch of notes, and I'm happy with my reviews and so on. And then we were talking about it, and Michael made some really, really good points. So, Michael, why don't you start off with your thoughts on this shot?
Okay. Honestly, what stands out to me is I really, really love the color. I love the diagonal line. The composition of this is beautiful for the stem coming across the frame here. And the only thing that bothers me with this photo is if you look in the leaf in the top right, you can see it's in focus. You've got lovely light coming through it. It's gorgeous to see the raindrops dripping off the bottom of the leaf. Everything about it looks great. But when we look at the middle leaf, which is clearly the focal point of the shot, it's darker than the other leaves. There's not as much color. There's not as much going on. And considering the angle of it and the fact that it's catching the light there, you can see the highlights more than you can see the rest of the leaf. I have to say, it's the hardest part of the image to read. And knowing that it's the focal point is a little tougher to appreciate because
it goes against it.
Yeah, everything looks so good around it. The colors are vibrant, beautiful. The composition is beautiful. The textures are beautiful. And I'm just not seeing that in the same way in that middle leaf, and I think it pulls away from the shot a little bit.
Yeah, I like your point that you made before about how if the breeze had kind of blown that leaf a little bit more and it was facing the camera a little differently, there wouldn't be the highlight directly coming back. Now, one of the thoughts I had, obviously the sense of motion is great, but what if a polarized filter was used? Would that have cut the glare down a little bit more? Or was a polarized filter used and the angle of reflectance off the leaf wasn't really working with the filter?
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
The polarizer filter would definitely help, but even to that extent, like you'd have to appreciate as well the fact that the polarizer is going to pull down the exposure a bit, which you can see is already working with getting the leaves sharp and still getting that motion in the rain. Everything else about the exposure looks good. And as much as the highlight is in the way, it's still that angle of the leaf. Even if the highlight wasn't there, it's darker, it's thinner, compared to the other options in the shot, just in this frame, it's still not quite there. I think definitely if the breeze was there and that the leaf was turned a little more towards us, it might have been a different story. Maybe it's just that this angle it looks darker and it's actually still similar to the other leaves. Yeah, it would take more than one step to change this, so I'm not sure the polarizer would help that
What do you
much.
think, Phil? What are your thoughts on this?
I like it. I know we've covered over some of it before. Color's great. I like the mixture of the still water drops on the leaf, as well as the the movement, the kind of fury of activity going on in the background. And I like the shot, but I do also agree that maybe a little bit of a different composition could change it. Whether changing it's a good thing or a bad thing would be up to, I think, Eric to decide.
Yeah, I mean, it's all interpretation and personal choice there, but I agree completely. I think the brightest part of your image is always going to draw your eye, the most contrasty part of the photo. And when your eye is drawn to something without detail and looking at it straight from the side like that, it makes it tough. I was thinking originally maybe a crop from the left side would help cut out the little water droplets in the bottom left, which are pretty bright too. That would draw you back in, but ultimately that leaf is still kind of flat there. So interesting ideas. Very cool. All right, well, anything else to add from either of you guys?
One small thing I noticed actually as well, when you're talking about the brightest part of the image is going to draw your eye, I can tell looking at this that you added saturation in post to make the greens a lot more vibrant, but the very center of the image, just to the left of that leaf, is the strongest green I see, and I think it's just so vibrant against what's arguably much softer colors, much duller colors. That green is actually pulling my eye as much, if not more, than the leaf itself does.
Huh,
So
interesting.
for future reference, I love the idea of pulling out the saturation of the greens, but try not to pull it too far.
Wait, very good point.
Makes sense.
All right, Phil?
I didn't really notice that little patch until they pointed it out. Now that's really all I see.
Yeah, and okay, I just want to remind everybody about Gabriel's statement that he always likes to make when we're doing a photo review. If you agree with our opinion, you're right. If you disagree with our opinion, you're also right. So, take our opinions with a grain of salt, and hopefully they're always going to give you ideas for future photos and help you make better pictures in the long term. Eric, great job for making the photo and submitting it. Thank you so much, and we hope to see more from you. All right, let's have a look at the next one.
Now, this one we had some interesting conversation about.
Yeah, why don't you lead off on that, Phil?
Well, there's a couple things going on in this shot, and we were having issues trying to figure out what it was. Like, I like the picture itself, but I think it's going to partly depend on what's happening. Because, like, right here we have this nice big clear area that's super sharp, and here we have rain or reflection or softness or something happening, and it's that juxtaposition between that sharpness and the softness I'm not sure about.
Yeah, you guys were thinking that it's like shot through a window or something?
Potentially.
Yeah, the bottom, the way that it looks in the bottom definitely screams mist to me. It looks like that soft mist of cloud passing over the mountains, but the way that you see that coming up into the top of the frame is so vertical that it makes me suspicious. I can't tell if it's actually mist or if it's a smudged windshield through a car that someone's looking through a window or something when they shot this. And yeah, it really depends on what's going on in this photo. If that's actually the clouds, then this is awesome. It looks really well, and I'd just say maybe some minor tweaks to the editing to give it a little more punch. But that aside, it's pretty distracting, so I'm curious if that is clouds or if that's a smudge that could have been avoided.
Taylor mentioned in her comment that, or in the comment on the photo, that she's not going to be able to watch us live. So we were really hoping to hear from Taylor. I believe Taylor's a girl. I'm kind of confused because there's no last name and there's two people in the photo. So I don't want to be disrespectful. Anyway, so when Taylor does watch this show, maybe she or he could.
Hey.
I feel stupid. Maybe they could leave a comment and let us know about that. I didn't see it as that. I actually saw it very Ansel Adams kind of feel. Like
Hmm.
the mountains, the white snow on the left side gives nice contrast to the mountains. I've been driving through parts in the United States, Arizona to be specific, and there was an amazing storm, and you could see sheets of rain coming down. And this to me looks like sheets of rain on the right side where the clouds are darker, and along the left side where they're lighter, there's no rain coming down. And I've seen this kind of effect before. It's just I'm curious. I'm curious if this was through a window of a car, and if so, it's a different kind of thing. If it's not through a window of a car, then you can picture Ansel Adams sitting on the roof of his old car with his big 8x10 plate camera and the bellows, and making this image in the middle of a potential storm. If it is through a car, then it's somebody leaning through the front window, going click, and getting a shot. I don't think that's what it is. I'm going with the Ansel Adams vibe.
Okay.
That's my take. Mark says he agrees. It looks like rain and sheets. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. But this story will come out eventually. Ultimately, it's an interesting photo, and between the three of us, it really created a lot of good conversation.
Absolutely. And I think that's a good part about any picture.
That's what it's all about, isn't it? Absolutely. Blake makes a point. He says the highest area of contrast pulls the eye. It can be exposure, color, etc. There's lots of ways to create a focal point, and I think that's a really good point to make, that there are lots of ways to create a good focal point, but ultimately the story has to be there, the composition has to be nice, the lighting has to be good, and everything kind of has to work. And I think that's a big reason why not everybody is a professional photographer. It's really hard to create an image that draws emotion and power in a single frame. Video is a little different. Stills, they do require you to really make every point, every little check mark has to be ticked, you know what I mean, to get that perfect photo. Anything else to add about Taylor's photo, guys?
Just the only thing I could add, I was going to mention about the editing, was if you look at the left side of the frame, we were saying there's so much detail and clarity there. The contrast is nice in the mountains. The detail in the clouds look great. The only thing that stands out to me is the bottom half of the mountains takes up a lot of space in that frame. And compared to the rest of it, not a lot of contrast there. It's a little bit muddier. So I would say on its own as a photo, it's great, but to bring it just that extra little bit, I would love to see the shadows taken in a little bit more, brought down a little more darker, and just have some more contrast, more range in that area. I think it would give it that little extra kick and make it a stronger image.
And that's where we always want to talk about that extra 10%, right? How can we make a photo the extra 10% better? So yeah, maybe like a gradient filter, graduated filter at the bottom type of thing, with a little bit of clarity or something like that, dehaze, or more. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
All right, good points. Thanks, guys. Let's move along to the next shot. Oh, this will be fun. All right, so this is Mark's photo. Mark submits photos for a lot of different reasons. I love his passion for photography and his humor in his photos. My thought about this is I could totally see Mark sitting at the end of this slip and slide laughing his ass off and just going like, come right at me. It's okay. Just come right at me. I could totally picture him doing that. But then again, I can also imagine a person sliding down a slip and slide, seeing Mark there at the end of the slip and slide, thinking, "Oh crap, I gotta bail," and taking off to the left there. Mark's a big guy, so I would want to run into him, but especially with a camera in his hand, that could do damage. But anyway, it's a great motion shot. I personally like this shot for a few reasons. Now, compositionally is one thing, and I think this is where I think it was Michael mentioned maybe take a few more shots and maybe you'll get something different. But there's, to me, for a few reasons, you can't really tell who the person is. So if this was me in the photo, generally I'm not a super fan of people taking my picture with my shirt off. Just a me thing. I usually like to have the good moose on me. But this photo wouldn't be so bad because it's not like, hey, there's Brian. You know what I mean? You can't really pick it out as a person if you don't know, or even if you did know the person. And secondly, using that slow shutter speed did give a nice sense of motion. And it almost looks like there was a bit of a panning technique going on to keep the face sharper than the rest of the body, almost like following the motion a bit. But, Michael, what did you think of this shot?
I don't know about this shot. I like the idea of it, but I think what was bothering me is this is It's such a great idea for an action shot. It's a great angle, but this is really a photo that you'd want to feel the action. And what gets to me is the fact that his face is covered. I can't see a facial expression. I can't see the enjoyment. I can't see anything with it. So that's why I was saying it would have been nice to see a couple extra tries with this and give him a few more goes on the slip and slide and see if you could line it up better where you just get a clearer shot of him, because I would have to say with the face being the sharpest thing in the image right now, it has to be the focal point, and the focal point is covered. And it's not very clear. It's arguably not the best facial expression either. He's got his eyes closed there. I think it just could have been better timed. I think a couple extra tries with it would have helped.
And then again, we got to get back to the reason behind the photo. And I totally agree with your point that if it's going to be a photo for a portfolio, you'd want to have the face showing, and you'd want to have all that. As Mark says here, it's his nephew, and he loves the photo. He was just trying to tag him. So, there's a different kind of intent, I think, for a shot like this than for something that you would leave in your portfolio as, here's the best photo I can make, right? What do you think about that, Phil?
I like it. I like just the, motion, the activity going on. You got the water flying everywhere. It potentially is intentionally blurry to get that feel of the action, feel of the motion. I think it fits with the whole water theme very well.
It definitely fits with the water theme. Yeah, for sure. He says, great points. Thanks, Michael. He took about 40 shots, actually, in total. This was his favorite shot of the bunch. Now, Mark, when you were making this, were you trying to build portfolio work, or is this just having fun with your nephew in the backyard on the slip and slide type of thing? Because obviously, we've seen hundreds of Mark's photos, maybe, let's say, dozens upon dozens of Mark's photos, and they're just very well thought out when he's trying to submit for the scavenger hunts and for the photo challenges. And Mark is a member of the Arcanum as well, actually in Don Komarechko's cohort, and so he could definitely compose a photo and do a great work. So yeah, he says he's just having fun with his nephew, and that's kind of how I'm taking it, and I think it's a really fun shot. That's my last point in my notes, is this is a really fun shot. Anything else to add, guys? No. Phil?
No, I'm shaking my head and then I realize you can't see me.
Okay, good. Yeah, you
I
just
do that
keep
every time.
doing that. All right, let's move along to the next one. Thanks,
Well,
Mark.
I think we should jump over this one and come back to it at the end.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, if that makes sense.
Mark, capital letters, shot down. That's all right. You can take it. You got big shoulders, buddy. Blake says drink. Yeah. I love that we have a drinking game based around our show, especially considering we recognize our show as being great for all ages. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, it doesn't matter what you're drinking.
No, milk. You should drink milk, boys
There
and
you
girls.
Calcium's good for you.
Coffee, there you go. Let me see that mug you got there, Michael. I've been known to flash people. That's what I'm talking about. Is that a wolf ring you're wearing?
Yes.
That's pretty cool, too. Very cool. All right, so on to this next photo here. This is Catherine's shot. I'm going to start off on this one.
Okay.
Because this one, when I first saw it, it left an impression. It's very bold. It's a neat, simple thing. I've seen lots of photos of maple leaves in water. By the way, Catherine submitted 2 photos. Water drops on a plant, and this one, I think we all 3 of us agreed that this is the better one to look through.
Mm-hmm.
Really interesting shot. And to me, it looks like there's actually veins of gold going through here. Very metallic feel to it. It gives a leaf a real impression of weight and strength. And just this little leaf against rushing water coming in, it looks like it's holding its ground there. I thought that was a really neat feel. My thought as far as any kind of potential improvement would be a rotation of the shot. And again, Don, talk about Don for a quick second, he makes the point that in the world of macro photography, there is no upside down, there is no right side up. You can do anything. And this kind of applies for me. And if you were to tilt it, I kind of made the point earlier, maybe 30, 40 degrees to the left, you'd end up with the tip of the leaf leaning a little bit toward the left corner, and that would maintain that diagonal line, which I think something that Michael's going to mention in just a second. So, Michael, why don't you tell me what you're thinking there?
Yeah, I was thinking it's definitely a good idea to have that rotation, but at the same time noticing that, assuming this is the full photo and it hasn't been cropped already, I would say it could warrant a second photo being taken just for the fact that if you were to rotate it, it would bring that left corner of the leaf a little too close to the edge, and I think that would not be as nice for the framing. So where the leaf is framed, how far away it is from the borders, everything about that is great in this. There isn't a lot I would change. The only thing that I'm distracted by is that top right corner having the line going through it. I think that
Hmm.
it just pulls the attention away where it shouldn't. And benefit that it's definitely not a bright spot in the image. It's not the first thing that gets your attention. So it's not a huge issue, but it's just that, again, that extra 10% that would have been nicer if it wasn't there.
Look at you catching into all the terms and everything already. That's pretty cool. The extra 10%.
Hmm.
But that's exactly what it is. Phil, what do you think?
I like it. I know we looked at it. The rotating could work, depending, of course, because you don't want to make the edges too close to the end, or end up cropping off part of the. I'm not sure what happened to my. Oh, it's doing that thing again. I don't know if you guys see it. If I wiggle it, mouse goes big again. I think the bottom part here. I don't know if this is another leaf engrave. I'm not sure what this is, but kind of same idea as the top. Not immediately noticeable, but once you look at the picture long enough, you do start to kind of pick up on the things. But I like it. I think it's nice. I do agree with Trish. I'm thinking it's an inlay in a piece of granite.
Hmm.
Which would kind of explain why the swoosh up here would probably be a mineral deposit or something in the granite.
Interesting.
But I like the picture. I think it's interesting. I didn't know they had that many maple leaf things in London, unless I'm thinking of the wrong London. This is the former London of the European Union, right?
I don't know.
Just say London, England in the post.
Oh, okay. I was thinking it might even be a Canadian penny now that was mentioned.
Just making terrible jokes. But yeah, overall.
Too soon, Phil.
Yeah, too soon. When Trump says something's a good idea, it's probably not.
Oh no.
I like this picture though. I think it works. It actually combines kind of last challenge and this challenge. You have Canada and you have water.
That's true.
But I like the detail in the water. I like that you have the ripples flowing off, and just it provides that kind of almost like a feeling of motion to something that really isn't moving, because it almost looks like these are the kind of motion lines of it moving through the shot.
Mm. Mark thinks it looks like a piece of jewelry.
Could be.
Interesting. I think that's really cool how this one photo, just like a really interesting picture of a Canadian leaf, it stirs up a lot of different feelings. Emotions from being Canadian, of course, or the metallic feel to it, or just the water movement. There's a lot going on here in such a little space. It's pretty interesting. Thank you so much, Catherine, for submitting. And let's move along to the next shot. Unless you guys have something else you'd like to say.
No?
Good to go.
We covered it.
Awesome, cool. Glenn. Now, Glenn is a member of the community. We've known Glenn for a while. He's been a customer of mine for years. Awesome guy, great photographer, and he does pet photography by trade. You can see his logo there on the banner. I'm pretty sure they added that to it. If they didn't, he did.
Now, with that, would we classify that a watermark?
Boom, boom. Ah, look at you. That's pretty good. All right, so
no, I'm kidding.
Who would like to lead off with this shot? Phil, why don't you go for it?
Okay, I like the shot. I like the. Apparently, tonight's keyword for me is action.
Lots of action. Well, with
but
water,
I do
we
like the action going on in the shot. I think it's really interesting. I like you get the emotion from this person, and she's, I don't know, maybe yelling words of encouragement or something, and tossing the completely the dog, the toy, sorry, that the dog seems to be completely disinterested in, because the dog looks more like he's looking straight at Glenn. But I like the shot. I think it works really well. I like the mid-flight kind of look coming from the dog. More or less everything's pretty much sharp where it should be. Little bit of fuzziness on the dog's face, but it is a dog. Sorry, I'm gonna stop with the terrible puns.
Well, as
But
Mark says, pun intended, Phil. It was very punny. You are king punny tonight.
but overall, I like the shot. Now, I didn't mention we were talking about it earlier. I didn't mention it earlier. I would have really been interested to see the shot from the side, to see what looks like a rather large dog sailing through the air, just kind of floating there. I think it'd have been really cool.
Yeah, I hear that. Just getting some behind the scenes comments from our buddy Blake.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Cool. All right, thanks Blake for that. He says Michael's mic was a bit quiet, so I've turned you up a little bit, Michael.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
And what do you think of the shot?
I love this shot actually. There's so much going on with it that just works so well. I love the balance of it. Like you can see right off the bat, no question, the symmetry to it is flawless. What really stands out to me in this is the implied line with it. As much as the balance that we see right off the bat is really good, what we can see is the girl on the left looks like she's looking right at the dog. The girl on the right is looking right at the bone, and the dog looks like it's looking right at Glenn, like you mentioned. Every element of this photo is connected so beautifully. The dog is perfectly centered, the bone is centered, and the positioning, the depth, just everything about where the girls are placed in this frame.
Even the one
works.
in the background there, you know, out of focus and happy and encouraging.
I mean, even on top of that, as far as action goes, both of them are posed in a great way. They don't look boring in any way. There's nothing boring about this photo.
Yeah.
So just every element that he could have brought into this just works perfectly.
Very cool. I agree with all that. I can't really offer much as far as critique or anything. I think he did a great job. All I would like to do is my own screen share for a quick second to talk about Ben, because Ben is actually Glenn's dog. So here's Ben. Glenn had another dog named Bob. He was with him for years, his best friend of all time. And Bob passed away not that long ago. And it took Glenn, I think, a little bit to get this new dog. And the dog's working out great, and it's his new best friend. And just happy for Glenn and Ben. And Glenn and Ben. I wonder if he planned that. Anyway, very cool stuff. So that's his own dog in flight.
Nice.
Have you guys ever shot dog jumping before?
No.
I have.
Where was that?
Actually, it was at a friend of mine's place. It wasn't really anything done professionally, but I was invited to a friend's cottage, and she has a bunch of dogs. And one of them was a German Shepherd. That I had a lot of fun with this image, and I'm sad it didn't really go as far as I wanted it to, because the way that he was jumping, the way that he was posed, he looked like a dragon. He looked like the classic movie poster dragon with his arms up, mouth open, and I really wanted to take that photo and actually draw over it and create a dragon image out of it.
That'd be cool.
And it was so appropriate that the dog's name was Rex.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a really funny photo to work with, and I don't even know where I've put that now. I can't share it with anyone, but that's my last memory of taking any photo of a dog jumping.
Well, if anybody's interested in this, check out Carrot Fest in Bradford. They always have the dog jumping competitions there. It's a lot of fun. These dogs, man, they get some height and some distance. It's insane what they can do. So, a lot of fun. A lot of fun. All right, let's move along. Let's see what's next.
Next, we are looking at Jerry's.
All right, now, Phil, you had some interesting things to say about Jerry's shot here. Why don't you lead off on this one?
Well, I like the shot. I really like what he's done with it. It looks like he's trying, a couple things that we've been talking about over the last little bit. He's got the light painting going on, like painting what looks like kind of steam coming out the front of the kettle and out of where it would normally leak out of the lid. I like the red kind of swirlies in the background, I guess, for warmth. Overall, I like the shot. Little bright on the kettle itself, but overall, I really like the shot. I like the creative kind of take on taking something that is, the energy of water boiling, coming back to action. I don't know. Apparently, I need to go out and do something. The energy of the water boiling, and I like the shot. I think it's probably one of my favorite ones that he's posted.
That's cool. Yeah, Jerry's been more active posting photos, and I agree. I think this is something he's worked harder on, and I love the effort that he put into it. Michael, what do you think?
Um, it's interesting coming to this because you guys talked a lot, especially earlier, about the fact that this is an interesting one that he's posted. I'm not very familiar with the community, so I haven't really been able to see anyone's growth yet. But I have to say, as far as the photo itself goes, I'm really loving the idea of what he did with it. I just have to say, the actual execution of it, I find a little bit distracting. I think I love the idea of using the red, and it looks like he was using a purple light here for the light painting, but the where he used the purple light, or if that's a purple light, I think it's just the purple color of the teapot there. It's distracting because again, it's the hottest part in the image. It's the brightest part, so my eye goes there more than anything else. And compared to that, the rest of the kettle doesn't have that much contrast going on. So it doesn't read very well to me. I think it would have been nicer to see the light that's in front of the kettle actually more to the side, more as a highlight that pulls it off the background. If it had been more at the bottom right area there where you see that dark edge, if it was used to pull that off the background and put a highlight there, it would have been great. But I think just that bold white area, I think, pulls away from it a bit. I find it a little bit too distracting.
Okay, so Jerry's watching, which is awesome. Thank you, Jerry. And he says that the pot is purple, so probably a white light against the pot itself. And I agree with you 100%, Michael. I love that Jerry did the light painting. I think it's fantastic. There's a couple tweaks, and y'all know that light painting is something that I love to do. I just actually on Sunday taught a session for the Newmarket Camera Club on light painting, and the beautiful part about it is you can replicate. You can't replicate it exactly, but you can do it over and do it over and do it over and do it over again, and see the progression from one shot to the next until you get to finally that one photo that everything's evenly lit. There isn't any kind of overexposure where you don't want it. There's no distracting items in the shot that pull you away from the story you're trying to tell, which to me in this photo is the steam coming out of the pot. I think that is the most important factor in the shot here. So when I look at the photo, aside from the fact that I love that Jerry's doing light painting because that just makes me happy. In fact, in my notes I said I think Jerry's trying to butter up this judge with this shot because everybody knows I love light painting. He says this is actually his first play with light. He agrees the brightness was overdone. So that's good to hear. That's really good to hear. So here's some suggestion for you. First of all, when you're doing light painting, it's a really good idea to brush the light. Don't shine the light. If you kind of get in the habit of doing this kind of motion when you're using a flashlight, then that's going to give you a softer, evener spread of light. Second point I'd like to give, for the red light that was going around the edge, I like to build a snoot around my flashlights. Now this one here has a red gel inside, so I actually use this to create red. It's just a white flashlight with a little red gel on the insert, as you can see, and there's another one in there still. And that's just going to give you a really nice red light. But because you have the snoot on the outside, you're not actually seeing the light, the hot spot of the light, or the edge of the light. So another example of that is when I do with my fiber optic brush, which is attached to just a little light wand that changes colors. See if I can get here. There's red, and so on and so forth. So these little wands cost $5 from Canadian Tire. There's blue. They're excellent, and then if you just attach one of these little fiber optic brushes, now you're brushing with light. You're creating a softer spread of light that you can brush and get sharper tips if you look through the end of it, or softer if you look through the side of it. This is just, by the way, just one of these little things that you turn them on and they have different colored lights that come out. I just throw this piece away. I don't really use this piece, but the wand itself is super helpful, and if you just make a little attachment that just goes onto the tip of one of those things and you cover up that, now this light here isn't getting in the photo at all, only the light that you have coming out of the tip of the fiber optic, which is a really fun thing to play with. A tip for building a snoot: if you have some gaff tape, just take a piece of gaff tape, take another piece of gaff tape, and lay it halfway on the first piece. Then you just wrap that around whatever you want. This is like a foam snoot here, but the gaff tape to snoot works brilliantly, and it's super easy to use and goes a really long way. So, Jerry, I hope you keep on trying the light painting. I hope the tips that I gave are something that you'll want to try again and do a little bit more with. I agree with Michael's point about the hot spot on the front of the pot. That's where your eye is going to, and it's distracting you from the steam coming out the side. So remember, you could do 40, 50 pictures. In fact, that's usually what I recommend people do when you're doing light painting, is take 30, 40 of these shots, and by the end, you won't have to edit it. It's just going to be lit properly. Everything's going to be done the way you like it. Compositionally, you'll get the photo you're looking for, because after each one, you can kind of tweak. Like, for example, the bottom of the pot's missing. Can't really see that. It looks disconnected a little bit. So by taking multiple photos and maybe even tethering to your computer so that that picture pops right up on the computer while you're doing your light painting, that might really be helpful too. So you're welcome for the suggestions. Hopefully you keep on doing it. I want to see more light painting from you, Jerry. I think that's really awesome that you're attempting it. And I'm just going to turn this thing off right there. Cool. All right. Anything else to add, guys?
I actually want to recommend a little bit of a challenge for Jerry if he's interested with this, looking at if we were to use the teapot again. If you look at how the steam is coming out of the kettle, the way that you've captured that is really nice, but I'm thinking if you want to play with light painting doing something like this, consider using it to accentuate what the actual subject is and even exaggerate it to an extent. Look at the shape of how the steam is coming out of it is similar to the shape of the beam of a flashlight, especially if you were to create the snoot that Brian mentioned. If you were to find a way to prop up the flashlight behind the kettle and have it angled up in the same way that that steam is, you can actually have it hitting the wall behind it and creating a color of light into the steam, or even finding a way to hit the steam with the flashlight would force that color into it. And by that same logic, the roundness of the kettle, if you were to light paint just a section behind the kettle, you can have a glow coming from around it that again separates it from the background. There's a lot of different ways that you can play with it, and if you want to explore more with light painting, I would recommend really look at the shapes that you're working with and the shapes that you're creating, and see if you can exaggerate it or make a caricature of the elements that are already there using your light.
Really good points. I hope you take that challenge up, Jerry. I can't wait to see if you do and what you create from it. Really cool stuff. Thanks for expanding your horizons for the challenge. All right, let's see what's next. We got Trish, I think, next.
Yep.
So I think I'm going to take a lead on this one. It's an extremely serene photo. Rhonda Starr said, actually, that it's very simple and different. I love that. And I've got nothing to critique. I really don't. It's very calming. The colors, the shadows, the details, all of that gives nice depth to the photo. The horizontal lines are also very calming. Where we talked earlier, the diagonal line gives some power and some energy, where a horizontal line is more calming. It's like you're laying flat in a bed. It gives you a very calming kind of feel. And I also like how the brightest parts of this photo are at the thirds. You notice that? So the upper third, the lower third, and along the left side, that's your brightest part of the whole photo. And when there's just water and texture, that light is basically creating the vibe for this shot. I thought it was really well done. Michael, why don't you go next on this?
I have to agree with everything you said, but along with that, what I really, really love with this, as far as the balance goes, is what strikes me as being the brightest part of the image is right along the middle of it on the upper half, and the darkest part of the image is attached to it just at that right side of the middle. And from that being the darkest spot, and then that line across being darker, that little bit in the bottom left corner being darker, the shadows themselves completely balance themselves out. The highlights being, again, on the thirds, balance themselves out. There really isn't much to critique here. There's it just works. It's such a simple shot, but where you would expect too much simplicity to some extent, looking at if you're just using the water, there's no specific focal points. Every element of what makes this simple actually ends up making it stronger. It's just so well balanced with how everything's lined up. So
Very
I think
good.
the timing of this is beautiful for something so random.
I'd like to hear the actual story from Trish on this, but Phil, what do you think?
I really don't have much to add. I'm a big fan of the kind of abstract style that it is, and well, pretty much everything we've kind of looked at before, I agree with.
Very cool. All right, well, since we're all in agreement, let's move along and take a look at the next shot. There it is. How did you do that?
What do you mean?
It was so fast, the transition. You're getting very good at this screen sharing thing, Phil.
It's either that or my internet's lagging out.
Oh, maybe that's what it was.
Making it seem like it's faster.
That could be it. That could be it. All right, so this is Rosemary's photo. Oh, Trish is watching. Very cool. She says, "Thanks, guys. You're very welcome." I'd like to know, since you're watching, was that photo uncropped, or was that a segment of a photo that you originally made? If it was a segment, great choices. If it's uncropped, awesome choices. Do you agree with me on that, Michael?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd love to hear. If you can just let us know on that, Trish, that's really cool. But let's talk about Rosemary's shot. Here, Phil, why don't you begin on this one?
I like this picture. I like what's happening. I like the kind of mix of the more blue, man-made kind of light going on in the center with the nice orangey glow from the either city or sunset happening, and the mirrored effect that you kind of get in that water.
Yeah, I'm curious. Is this like from a cell phone? Because there's no EXIF,
And it is very small.
and it's very small. So normally what I would like to do would be to zoom in and see if there's any detail on those buildings that have the lights on them. But it's an interesting...
Okay, I don't know what I did.
Well, you did something. Oh, by the way, Trish says it was uncropped,
Oh,
that
nice.
photo. So
Right.
that is composed, that is thought out. That's a beautiful photo. Well done. And Rosemary, what do you think of this shot here, Michael?
I don't know. I like the balance of it. I just have to say it really doesn't speak to me very much. The choice of keeping it dark and having that silhouette, having it fall off to black like that on the left side, the exposure was a good choice. At the same time, this is a kind of photo where, me personally, I would like to have seen a little bit extra retouching done, or maybe even a composite done where there was a second exposure that brings a little more detail into the trees on the right and just has more happening. Or even if that weren't the case, having some sort of focal point, I think, because the focal point right now is that blue light across the lake there, and there's just not very much happening. I want to look more at the sky and the reflections more than at that focal point.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Which is tough because the lights are so bright across the lake.
yeah,
They're gonna dominate your where you're looking at, you know. So that is tough. But the color along in the sky along the right side, I think that, like you're saying, that's what we want to be looking at, right?
yeah. I want to say hypothetically, if we took that element out of the shot and this was just a silhouette and gradient of the sky, I think it would have actually been stronger if that wasn't there. I think it's distracting rather than adding to it.
Christine actually says there's more reflection in the right side of the photo. I like that part of the photo the best. But that's interesting when you start looking at a photo and thinking, I like this side better than this side. I mean, there's an interesting dynamic going on there. When I first saw this, I thought that the dark fade on the left, it kind of removes the scale of how big the lake is.
Yeah.
And you almost get a vibe like it's not really a lake, it's more like a loch, like Loch Ness. And you can almost see Nessie coming in from the left side, you know? It opens up some imagination as to what could be going on the other side of the photo. But is that what we need? Is that what we're looking for as viewers of the photo? So I think this is where interpretation is going to trump. Oh God, I can't believe I just said that word. Is going to trump things a little differently. I also thought that the trees in the right side were a bit distracting because they kind of break up that sky a little bit. Might crop that the right side off just at the trees so that you only see the sky. But hard to say. Hard to say. Interesting. Anything else you'd like to add, guys?
No, I think we covered it. I would definitely have to agree about the trees just being a little too distracting. Would have been better if those weren't there.
And no, Blake, I'm not a peeping Tom. I wanted to see sharpness. I didn't want to see what was going on in the windows. Just saying. You called me a peeping Tom, man. It's a peeping Brian, all right? Get it right. All right, so here's Christine's. Is this the last photo?
It is.
Very cool. I called this photo Water on the Winder. That's just kind of me. Actually, I really like the detail. When I first saw this, it really struck me. It's very vivid. I love the little catch light in the water droplets.
Mm-hmm.
But Phil, you had some interesting points on this.
Little thing going off over here.
Yeah.
I like this picture. I do get the feeling it is kind of cut weird with the large amount of the white up here. I really just like what's happening here. These water droplets falling off. I like the detail in that. I like the light shining off of it. I like the super soft kind of bokeh in the background. So I almostly. It's apparently been one of those days.
You've been playing the Don Komarechka drinking game.
Apparently. I almost would like to see just that as the picture. Like, just get in, maybe, all right, because I can't make it a square. It has to just be a rectangle. Almost get in and just see that as the picture itself, or with maybe a little bit less kind of white up here.
Interesting. Yeah, it's kind of split. I actually, when I first saw this, I thought that was shot with a 50 mil.
Oh, yeah.
And then I looked at the bokeh on the stuff in the background, and you could see the aperture blade outlines, and I thought that is definitely shot with a 50 mil. And then I looked at the EXIF information. You know what it says?
300.
It was shot with a 50 mil.
Okay.
So
You're going in a different direction.
Pat myself on the back there, just for knowing my glass. Feel pretty cool about that. But no, it's interesting. I actually really like this photo right off the bat. This is just I don't know what it was, just the feeling. I actually thought the water droplets were on the inside, not the outside of the blind, until I opened it up larger and noticed that the water droplets are on the outside of the blind. But interesting photo. Michael, what do you think?
I have to say I think this is a really nice concept. I love the choice of what was being shot. I love the water. Everything about the subject you're shooting looks great. I think the only thing that gets to me is the balance of it. I'm not very happy with the crop here. I think the positioning of sort of that white segment of the blinds in the frame along with the background, and I love the bokeh. It looks beautiful. The raindrops look beautiful, but it just doesn't balance out very nicely for me. And I would have liked to see either pulling back, keeping this landscape, pulling back and having a wider, longer shot of this would be interesting, or changing it to vertical and keeping it on the rule of thirds. Like, I can see that you're on the rule of thirds with this shot, but it still just doesn't feel quite right. And I'm thinking maybe having more length to it if you were to shoot vertical and have...
So you mean like a 16:9 kind of crop, maybe? More
maybe
cinematic feel to it.
Just have something longer to it, because that's it. It feels too square to me. And
so more aggressive on the crop.
The other thing that I noticed with this, and I don't know if it's just the shape of the blinds and it's creating an optical illusion for me, if it's actually how it's shot, but the horizon line that I'm seeing in this feels a little bit off. The left side looks higher up to me.
I'm kind of feeling that.
I find that a little distracting as well. So I think you definitely need to check the horizon and see what's happening with the behavior there.
The photographer OCD kicks in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, back to the point of having the brightest part of the image show through, or right back to the greens there, that bottom left segment of green is really vibrant. And I'm looking at that as much as I am the raindrops here, and I think that would have been better if it was toned down a little bit.
Good points. Very good points. Phil, anything else to add?
No, I think we've pretty much covered over everything.
Cool. Well, we're about 10 minutes over what we would normally be in a photo. Well, in a normal show. I think we pretty much accept the review shows go a bit longer because we don't want to, ignore people's images. So that's okay. I'm good with that. But I'm glad we got through these well. Everybody submitted some amazing work. Thank you so much for everybody to submit. Phil, are you ready to help us pick the winners?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Cool. So you're welcome, Christine. I'm glad you like our review there. And Phil is going to do the fun, wonderful, scrolly, marvelous stuff as I read off the third, second, and first place winners in that order. So, in third place, that's the wrong tool. There's a tool controlling the tool. In third place, we're giving to Catherine for her photo of the maple leaf. Apparently, it's now stone, not an actual leaf, but that's still pretty cool. We all really like the texture and the feel of this shot, so well done, Catherine. You've got yourself 2 points that'll go toward the quarterly challenge, so good for you. Excellent work. In second place, for 4 points, we're giving this to Trish for her photo. Where is it? There it is. Trish Castling. Beautiful shot. Great work. Thank you for submitting. Well done. How do you like the cheesy sound effects there, Michael?
Loving it.
Awesome. Cool. And in first place, with his amazing photo, we give this one to Glenn. Good job, Glenn. Excellent stuff. I think we all chose this as our first place, and you did a great job with everything. Timing, settings. One of the things that we did mention when we were reviewing this was we kind of guessed the aperture, which isn't in the photo details, was probably around like an f8 or something like that. I'd love to hear from you, Glenn. I don't know, I'm a bit of an EXIF geek, so I'd love to hear what you have to say about what your actual aperture was on that one. Oh, we've got lots of people making comments here. Christine says, thanks, guys. Glenn says, very enjoyable. Appreciated all comments. Blake says, what about Michael's photo? Well, that's next there, buddy. And Christine says, great job, everyone. Gabriel, hold it. There is one more. Is that Michael's?
I think it was referring to mine. It's just the fact that we decided I'm actually opting out.
Yeah, there's a new one. But you're right. Yeah, Michael isn't actually submitting for the contest. Hit one new. What is that?
Uh-oh.
Oh, Gabriel!
There we go.
Ah, dude, I'm so happy you posted this photo. Trish says thank you, and we're going to get to this photo right now. So, Gabriel, our former host, who is not included in winning. Oh, what? Glenn says he shot that at f2.8.
Okay.
Huh.
That is a lot more depth of field than I expected.
With what lens? Was this cropped?
I was thinking this might, for 2.8, with that kind of depth of field, you'd think there'd be a wider lens, not zoomed all the way
I'd
in.
want to vote maybe like a 35.
That could be. What do you think, Glenn? What's your focal length on this shot, bud? Or on the dog shot? Mark says, great photos, everyone. Awesome tips from the hosts. I agree, Michael. You did well, man. That was really good advice. But we're not done. What do we think of this shot here? Glenn? Oh, it's Glenn. What am I talking about? Glenn already won. Michael, why don't you start on Gabriel's photo?
I love this, actually. This is a very cool photo. The balance of it is great. The texture I love is really good display of the texture. I love the timing for that drop on the bottom. My only criticisms for this is this looks like the sort of the strongest element to this would be the texture being a macro photo, and most of the strawberry we're not really seeing from that point because, at least from what I can see on the screen here, it looks a little bit washed out on top where the highlight's hitting the green. I think maybe a different angle or maybe dialed down the light a little bit in that spot would have helped just to bring out more of the actual texture of that spot. And maybe a little bit more fill on the bottom, more of a reflector or a second light added in just to get more happening in that shadow, because I like the shadow there. It does great for the depth of the photo, but I think the shadow's too strong, and just out of personal taste, I would have liked to see a little more light hitting that on a bit of an angle to show more of the texture of the seeds in that, and just add that little bit extra to the shot.
What do you think, Phil?
I agree. I would like to see a bit more here, or I would like to see less here. Because I like the idea of the darkness fading into the the little bright droplet. Um, I agree with Gabriel. The water droplet is a little blurry. I would like to see that a bit sharper. It's good, but I think he could shoot a little better.
Gabriel said the water droplet. Oh, he did say that. Guys, me mad. I wanted Moody strawberry shot with a single beauty dish. Interesting. Yeah, I think the idea that Michael had with the reflector would have helped with that a little bit.
Yeah. Overall, it's a pretty good shot. I like it. Makes me want some nice, freshly picked strawberries.
Yeah, it would be tasty. So exposure, 1/60th of a second, f14. Well, he's going for the deep depth of field. And the shutter speed with flash should be okay, but I think if there was another flash kind of underneath or maybe from behind, that would have frozen the water droplet a little bit more. I'd say that's motion blur that we're getting. Really cool shot, Gabe. I saw when you made this. And by the way, we got to give a little bit of shout out to the Loft Studio. This was made at our studio on Main Street in Newmarket. Gabe is killing it, man. Good work. Love this shot. Love the rich color. I agree, though. I think a little bit more light on the base of the strawberry. If I looked at this on my computer. I pulled it up myself, and there is a nice rim light on the left side of the strawberry, so you do have separation there. But yeah, a reflector probably would have helped, or even a flash from behind to sharpen up that water droplet thing. Hey, I know a guy who's putting on a water droplet session. I believe it's August 14th. I think that's something Gabe might want to register for. I think you might learn a thing or two from that Joseph Leduc guy. No, I'm not messing with you. But very cool. Gabriel, thank you for submitting for the photo challenge. Is this the first time you submitted actually for the challenge? I know you did it late after we picked the winners, so I assume that you're not including yourself to be chosen. But very cool stuff. Very nice.
Yes, I like it. Very good picture.
Yep. Oh, Glenn says he was using a 70-200 f2.8 lens, but he was shooting at 120, so he wasn't zoomed in all the way, which probably helped to expand the depth of field a little bit. But still, 120 mil at 2.8, you would expect it to be shallower. It's really neat, interesting.
Yeah. Was this cropped at all? I'm thinking with the with just how well it was balanced with the symmetry of it, that it might have been cropped and rotated to help. But I don't know if that's wishful thinking that you're cheating, or if you actually got that.
Cheating? Whoa. You're allowed to crop. Cropping's good. Yes, but not the last. Mwahaha, Gabriel says. Good. I want you to start submitting for these challenges. Now that you've left us, that's okay. We love you, Gabe. Even if I have to clean your car every once in a while, it's okay. All right. Awesome. Great job, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for submitting. Michael, thank you so much. And I want to talk about your photo now. So, Phil, why don't you pull up the shot that we're talking about here? I think everybody should have a look at this. And this is what we're talking about with a composite. And he made this for this challenge. So I really, really wanted to include you into the actual competition. But because you're helping judge, we kind of decided that wouldn't be the best plan, and you pulled yourself out. So thank you for that. My first thought when I saw this was it looks like the inner part of a 33. Remember the old 45 records?
Yep.
That little disc that you'd put on the tray so that the record would fit on the record player. That's kind of what I see in the center of this shot here. Maybe you can explain your process and what you did to make this happen.
Well, this was a lot of fun to work on. A really interesting challenge, but it was interesting at first because this is not at all what I intended for this picture. I had a completely different image in mind that it actually just couldn't work out the way that I had intended. So it was like I was talking before about loving the idea of doing a composite, having the puzzle pieces to work with. Just rearranged the pieces until a different idea came into play. But I can actually screen share here and show you a little bit of what I was working with.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
I encourage everybody in the meantime to go to the community and open up Michael's photo as he's explaining all this.
So, okay, I've got my screen sharing up now. I'll close out some of my stuff here. These are actually, I only used a handful of photos to make this work. Let's see if I can load this up here. So I've got one shot of the hand. They were actually, I didn't have a top and bottom hand because I was going with a different concept at first. So I got one hand, another hand, and this was just shot with a beauty dish underneath, and I had a reflector over top of the hand. And this was really with the intention, what I was originally going for was actually the idea of water magic. I wanted the water to be pulled out of a spell book. So I had the light coming from underneath the hand because I wanted the spell book to be glowing. And it just wasn't working out for me, so I decided to play around with a few other options. But this was really just, I had a few friends over and we filled up some water balloons and put a little bucket down and decided to see what we could get away with and got some interesting shapes out of the water. So I took easily 100 photos, but these were the ones that turned out best for me. And there's only a few that I picked out that were really worth working with. Most of them didn't work out. This is my first time doing anything with water in this way. It's my first time working with water balloons and trying to capture this. So it was quite the challenge for me. But going from that point, I made a few different Photoshop documents for this, actually, because it was such a large one to work with. When I was processing in RAW, I decided to add a little bit of blue to the hands because I wanted the water to have this magical appearance to it and be glowing. So I made everything blue right off the bat with that. And what we've got here is we've got the two separate hand photos. And what I do for composites like this that I always go back to doing is I'm going to pull this apart here piece by piece. This is what I would call my cheat with it. All of my layers here are set to screen blending, and I know this is probably going to be hard to see on anyone else's screen because my interface is really small, but the blending mode to all of my layers here is set to screen. And what that does for me is if I'm shooting on a dark surface, then only the brighter parts of whatever's showing up in the photo is actually going to appear. So it makes it a lot easier if I'm shooting everything on a black background. I can just individually add piece by piece each one, and I don't have to worry about cutting it out or masking it out or anything. It's just much quicker. So it's a bit of a cheat that I do to do it that way, but when I know that I'm working on a black background, everything's a lot quicker to put together. So I just took each photo and sort of cut out the parts that I wasn't using and started adding them all into the shot. And I went through a few different ideas with this. I wanted sort of the water juggling and just floating back and forth. So at first I had these three that I put together, and it just didn't feel complete to me as an idea either, so I decided to play around a little bit more and wanted to actually do something like a portal. I like the idea of a water portal, so I made the tails even longer on this, added some more into it, and filled out this circle. And then added some adjustment layers to it to just darken it, have some more, added some depth to the black, and then added some color into it as well. And from that point, I was trying to decide where I could take it. If it was going to be a portal, am I going to have anything coming through the portal? And I actually went to the aquarium recently in Toronto and shot some fish, shot some jellyfish and sharks and everything, and tried adding those in. But I wasn't really happy with that result either. So I ended up making a whole other document for it, flattening this out so it'd be easier to work with. And pull up my other one here. What I ended up doing was squishing it down to fit in the hands better.
Huh.
So I can pull back to just the background again here. So I squished this down, and again, I kept that adjustment layer separate just in case I wanted to change anything. I made it a little bit thinner so it would fit in the hands nicer. I did some retouching with the arms just to make them a little cleaner, make everything look nice and sharp. And then I just went back to that original document where I had the three that were juggling and sort of completed the tails on those, balanced them out a bit, and decided to just... I got the idea of having a portal or something with... They kind of remind me of souls. If you were to look at this sort of Disney interpretation of the underworld, I'm just thinking like the movie Hercules, where they look into Hades and there's all the souls swirling around in a circle. So I decided to just take those three and copy and paste and rotate them and make them smaller each time, so it's further and further into it. So there's a few different ideas that you can get from what this shot would be, and I kind of let it be any of the above. But what it is for me kind of makes me think souls or juggling water, any of the sort like there. And then I just wanted to make it a little bit more ethereal, so I added a bit of a diffuse glow to it and to the hands as well, and then another layer of that to the water to just have that little extra magical look to it, and then sharpened it up and did a bit of dodging and burning. Just
Very
strength into it.
cool. So yeah, it was an easy process then. Took you 5 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Took me a couple days of fighting myself and drinking more coffee than we own. But it was a lot of fun to put together. Definitely, it was a new type of image for me, so it was a lot of fun to do.
Well, I appreciate you making this for the photo challenge. I appreciate you putting all the time you put into it, and I super appreciate you explaining it so that everybody who's watched the show and saw the photo in the community would say, sometimes putting in the extra 10% can go a long way, and you really, really you showed that with this shot. Phil, what do you think?
I think that might be more than 10%. 12 maybe. I like it. Honestly, I immediately thought fish. I thought you had fish swimming around in a circle. But the whole Hercules thing actually makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, I showed this to my father, and he thought it was fish as well.
I had a few ideas. Like my first thought was the 45 album insert. You were trying to simulate the audio thing in the center. Then I thought, is it a nuclear kind of thing? Like you're going for the nuclear. Then I thought I saw fish. So that's what I love about it, though. You can keep looking at it and keep on coming up with different interpretations, and it's a really interesting twist to the water theme. So for the record, for everybody who's watching, if Michael wasn't a guest on the show tonight, we would have picked this as the winner. I'm just saying. Great photo, great effort, a lot of work put into it, and you deserve a lot of credit for it. If anybody's interested in seeing some more of Michael's amazing work, check out www.michaellanephoto.com. It's MICHAELLANEPHOTO.com. Great stuff, dude. Thank you so much for sharing and being on the show tonight. If you want to stop your screen share, you can. If anybody wants to see this photo, please go to the Daytripper photo community and check it out. It's in the weekly photo challenge page. And great work, dude. Seriously, well done.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So what did you think of being on the show? You enjoy it?
Definitely. It was a lot of fun.
Cool. Good. Phil, thank you for being here as always, my friend.
Thank you.
Do we have anything else that we want to talk about before we say goodnight?
Yeah, I got a couple notes.
What kind of notes do I have here? Where are my notes? There they are. Yeah, so we went over the photo. Oh, yes, we have to give the next photo challenge. And that's about it. Cool. Do you have a quote for this week?
I'm working on that.
All right, Phil's going to get us a quote for the week, so we can close the show off with that. But before we do, I just want to mention to people we had to cancel our fireworks session this year. I'm a little bit bummed about that. We didn't have quite as many registrations as we required to pay $1,000 for fireworks and have a barbecue and food and people and all that kind of stuff. So we called it off. Unfortunately, I always look forward to the barbecue session and barbecue and fireworks, I should say, session. So we're going to issue the photo challenge of fireworks. We love it. I love shooting fireworks. I'm going to remind everybody the hat trick is something you can play with. Um, and all kinds of other cool things you can do with fireworks photos. Zoom blur, focus blur, the hat trick. I encourage everybody to look into all these interesting ways of making fireworks photos, because the current photo challenge is now fireworks. We're looking to see something unique, and if you kind of take a page from Michael's playbook and you start getting into maybe doing some composites with fireworks, you can have a lot of fun and make some really interesting images. So get out there, make some great photos, guys. I really, really can't wait to see what you do. Just going to quickly check something out here. No, we're not out of time. I'd like to share actually a few more quick pictures that Michael has made. I asked him before the show if he can gather up a few extra photos. So, Michael, please show us what else you got, buddy. These are photos I think that represent your philosophy in photography.
Yeah, so I've got a few I could share here. Let me go back into the screen sharing one more time.
And for those of you who are still watching the show right now, please feel free to comment, say whatever you'd like to say. Let us know what you think. Blake is going to post some shots from last year. Well, Blake, you could do that, but they don't count for the photo challenge. You got to get new photos, as we like to remind everybody for the photo challenge. Please submit new photos for the challenge made from today until 3 weeks from now when we review the fireworks photos.
And you can always get discount fireworks the day after Canada Day.
You could. It would still apply. And if you need fireworks, actually, if you're in Newmarket and you need some fireworks, check out Starlight Pyrotechnics. They're on Eagle. Ask for Ray. Awesome guy. That's where I get all my fireworks from. Super, super, super cool guy. All right, Michael. Sorry, I'll shut up now. Go ahead.
Okay. This is one that I was interested in sharing, just to talk about sort of my favorite types of photos to take. It's maybe not my best photo or one of my favorites, but I think it's a good example of one of the things that I love doing with portraits is I like doing caricatures to an extent, but what I really love doing is I'm sort of taking a page from Richard Avedon. I love capturing people's personality as well as I can and sort of the inner workings of who you are, and I think this is one of the highlights of what showed that best for me. I was shooting this guy, Andrew, for one of my homework assignments at school, actually. And every photo I took of him, I would look at the camera, and as soon as I turned around, he had another piece of candy in his mouth. And I got to know him before the shoot, and he works in a knife-making shop. He's always wearing these cool, like, military outfits. He looks like a tough guy, but he's such a quirky character. He's good humor, always laughing about everything, and always eating candy, apparently. And it was a lot of fun to shoot this. As soon as I saw him with the candy in his mouth, I said, okay, sit down. I know what shot we're getting next. And when we shared this one online after the shoot, all of his friends on Facebook, their first response was, this is you. It really excited me that it caught his personality to the point that it wasn't just his appearance, it was him that everyone could recognize, and it was a lot of fun to do that, and I try to do that now with some of my shots if I get a chance to know someone well enough. So as far as portraits go, it's a lot of fun for me to do stuff like that. But another one that I wanted to talk about is...
Well, on that one, I just want to quickly mention, I didn't know that was candy. I thought it was bacon.
It's actually called candy bacon or rainbow bacon or something.
Problem solved. Very cool.
Yeah. But
so what else have you got there? Sorry, go ahead.
As far as Photoshop goes, I love abstracts, I love textures, and I'm actually working on a series that I created that revolves around textures and negative space, which is two elements that I love focusing on as far as design goes. And this is my painting series. If anyone's interested in looking on my website, is still to this day one of my favorite photos that I've ever taken. And part of it's the texture, the design, everything is interesting, but it's also, I like a photo that you have to take a second to figure out what you're looking at in the first place. And not a lot of people can guess right off the bat what this is. I've had quite a few people ask me how long I've owned a snake for. I don't own a snake. This is actually two girls that are actually best friends, so they were quite happy posing like this because apparently they were just cuddling and chatting with each other the whole time that they were modeling. But it was a lot of fun to shoot this one.
It's nice when you can have a rapport with your models and they feel comfortable with each other. You can get a completely different emotion from them.
Yeah.
Really neat.
So,
I kind of, not to pat myself on the back, I figured this one out. That's, the painting on the body and all of that, it's a really interesting technique. I'm not much of a people photographer, so this isn't something I would venture out and try myself, but it's really a cool shot.
yeah, it was a lot of fun to shoot, and there's some other ones in the series that have great stories attached to them. But one more that I wanted to share with you guys is I know that you're a big fan of light painting. I'm a big fan of light sculpting, which is just sort of the word that I'm putting on it, but it's light painting to an extent as well, where, like I said, with surrealism, I like impossible photos. I like impossible light. And this is actually, it's not a complete photo. I'm still working on it, so you can still see some of the highlights in this. But the idea is I wanted to light this from a bunch of different angles so that I could have all of the relevant details in the car without catching any of the reflections. And what it ends up looking like is piece by piece adding segment and segment and segment to the car and only allowing the details in that I want there. So it's a really fun aspect of composite photography that I think if you experiment with light painting is really beneficial to do because it allows you to pull in just the information that you want there. And if you're taking more than one photo, you can add each one in as much of it as you want if you're careful with how you edit it. And again, this is the same technique I was talking about before. All of these are set to either lighten or screen so that only the lightest part of the image is coming through, so I can start with a dark background and work my way up without really having to worry too much about content getting in the way of each other.
That's pretty cool. That is taking light painting to a different point. Outside, you don't really have the ability to block all light, so you can't sit there and do a bulb exposure and take your time and paint every little piece as you go. So doing it in sections, you can really control the light. That's a really neat idea.
So I think
Cool
that's
stuff,
that's it for me there.
Well, I'm really happy that you were you shared those with us. Thanks so much, dude. That's really awesome stuff. I saw two of Phil there for a little while. That's a little too much. Awesome. Well, Michael, thank you for being on. Really appreciate it, dude. Before we say goodnight, I'm just going to have Phil read off the quote of the week.
And so our quote of the week is, "People who think they know everything are a great annoyance to those of us who do."
Good old Isaac Asimov. Good
That
stuff.
it is.
Very cool. Thanks for that, Phil. And again, thank you for being on this week.
Oh, no problem.
Thank you
Thanks
to
for
everybody.
having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for everybody who's watched this week and shared your insights into your photos. We really appreciate you putting the time in to make these images. By no means am I saying that everybody who submits images should take this kind of a time as Michael did for his photo. We love everything that you guys submit. We just appreciate the effort you put into it and the thought that you put into, hey, there's a photo challenge. Let's make an image for it. So we really hope you guys continue on with that for next week. Fireworks is the current theme. Can't wait to see what y'all come up with. And if you start branching off into some of this composite stuff, I can only imagine the cool things that you could do with fireworks. So have fun out there. Be safe, everybody. Make good choices, and we'll see y'all next week. Oh, and by the way, next week's show is a tips and techniques show. We're talking about file formats. So TIFF, RAW, JPEG, bitmap, GIF, all of these kinds of things.
GIF.
And GIF. We'll talk about
One's peanut butter, one's a moving picture.
Yes. One's the best peanut butter in the world.
I am eventually going to get some of that.
Yes, you are. But you got to go to the States to do it.
Or Amazon.
I tried Amazon. It cost me $350 in shipping.
Don't do that.
Yes. No, I didn't do it.
Wow.
I actually took a photo of the screen share of the Amazon. It cost 3 times as much for shipping as the product was.
$100 for peanut butter is a little steep, but hey, if it's good peanut butter.
It was a lot of peanut butter. But
Okay.
I put the word out that I like GIF, and next thing you know, I had all these people like, "Hey, you want GIF? I'm going to the States. You want me to pick you up some GIF?" And I had friends from the Ancaster Henry store ship them through the Henry shipping to me, and yeah, it was some pretty awesome stories that came out of my GIF experience. So, anyway, fun stuff. Stay tuned for next week's show, Tips and Techniques show on file formats, and we'll see you everybody next week. Take care, everyone. See you Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you.